money market. Money market, on the other hand, is a situation where market liquid assets are bought, that is the demand, and sold, that is the supply. So money is bought and money is sold. There's a demand for money and supply of. Now, here we have two words that we need to understand. That is liquid assets. Assets mean anything that people can use to store their wealth. Anything. So you have real assets, also you have financial assets. Liquidity means the ability of those assets to exchange for any other good or service at a short notice and at minimum cost. Ability to use that asset in exchanging for any other good or service. So that ability, we have mentioned here short notice and minimum cost. Only money has got that ability. Perfect liquidity. Why? You can buy anything, any good or a service at a short notice, wherever, whenever it is available. And there is no any other transaction cost involved in that exchange at a short notice. But if you have other assets, for example, you have a real asset, a piece of land, it's a real asset. But you need to buy, exchange it for other goods and services. So you can't do that at the short notice because it takes time for you to do that transaction. And also you don't have the minimum cost because there are other costs involved in that transaction. It is not the value of the land, the cost of the land, but transferring that land to a different party, another party. It has cost. You have to pay to government. If there are taxes, you need to pay. If there are transaction costs, you need to pay. So this liquidity is there, but not as high as the liquidity of money. So when we list out all the assets in a row, money, jewelry, gold, bond, T-bills and T-bonds, company stocks, all these things, real assets, your house, your motor vehicle, your land, they can be categorized according to the level of liquidity. So with the even money is an asset too, so that the perfect liquidity is only with money. So we understood it now, only with money. All the other assets come, of course, closer to money now. If you are giving a check instead of cash, it's quite close to money. liquid asset. So money is a liquid asset. Another concept that we need to understand is real money balance. Real money balance. It is the real value of money due to changes in price level. So if you take the stock of money in the economy or in your fixed deposit or in your EPF, the real value of that money stock will change over time in response to inflation. In fact, because of high inflation in Sri Lanka last year, according to official statistics, almost about 50% of the real value of the money that you hold wiped out. 50%. So if you have 1 million in your EPF, in fact, it is now worth about half a million of annual inflation rate. Probably it is even less. That's why it says that in higher inflation situation, the older people lose much more than anybody else. If you categorize different age structures of people, actually the highest loss is for the older people. What is the reason? The reason is all the others will have time to recover what they lost because there is a process of adjustment which may take place within next couple of years. And along with that, everybody's consumption level, although they have suddenly now reduced their consumption standard, they will have time to recover that. They will have time to make the adjustments. But according to the age groups, the people who don't have that adjustment time period are the people, retired people, older people, because the reason is they are not going back to work. So real money, if you are talking about your own money in your pocket or the economy, the money in the economy, all of the money in the economy, that is M over P. M is the nominal money stock and P is the price level of the economy. M over P is the real money balance. Real money balance. So in an economy, according to Keynesian view, people can choose between two types of assets. Two types of assets. So the public actually keep their wealth in these two types of assets. One is money. Again, we are looking at not individuals, okay? We are looking at the entire economy. So the economy has got an amount of money, which is liquid asset. If public keep amount of money, why do they need amount of money, that amount of money? Because they can maintain liquidity. Why do we need liquidity? Because for transaction, we need liquidity. For our living expenses, we need liquidity. However, if you keep money, now when we say money, it doesn't mean that you keep it in cash. You can even keep it in the bank accounts. Today, bank account is very close to money in your pocket because without physically getting money into your hand, you can do a lot of transactions. So with technology, even the bank accounts have become even fixed the uh, your other type of savings account and fixed deposit. They also become liquid assets because with your technology, you can do the transaction. However, if public choose to keep money, they lose interest income that they would have earned otherwise. Where do they earn interest income? According to Keynes, it is by investing in the bond market. So that is the other choice that they have. Bond market. Bonds. Instead of keeping money, you can invest in the bond market. So these days, I'm sure you are also involved in this bond market talks, discussions, because public have invested part of their wealth in the bond market. Banks, non-bank financial institutions, other institutions, and then superannuation funds, EPF, ETF, and individuals, other firms, organized. We all have invested in the bond market. Why do we keep a part of at least part of the money in the bonds? Because bonds is an interest bearing asset and it permits to earn interest income. It permits us to earn interest income. But when we keep our money in the bond market, we lose liquidity. So we have a choice. Public has a choice between money and bond. Can you see now the price, how interest rate is important in this choice between money and bonds? If you keep money, you lose interest income. So it is the opportunity cost for you to keep your money under the pillow or in your pocket. You lose interest income that you would have otherwise earned in the bond. If you keep bonds, then again you are losing something else. What is that? You lose liquidity in your hand. You lose liquidity because it takes time for you to use bonds for transaction purpose. And there is transaction cost as. So because of this choice between the two types of assets, interest rate is the price of money. So I'm having my tea also. If you are interested in, you can also have your tea while listening. Bond. What is a bond? Bond is a debt instrument. So the term bond we are using as a common term for both bond and debentures and also bond for treasury bills. All of them are bonds. Okay? Whether it is issued by the corporates as corporate bonds or the government as treasury bonds, it doesn't matter. Everything is a bond. Of course, we know that in the Sri Lankan bond market, 99% bonds are government bonds, treasury bonds, because it's not a developed bond market. But if you go to a developed bond market, then they are issued by corporate sector as well. In the US financial market, the corporate bonds, some of the corporate bonds are even more stable, and grading is higher for some of the corporate bonds, much more than the government. So credit rating is also higher for certain bonds, like Apple companies like that. In Sri Lanka, anyway, it is always about government bonds. It's a debt instrument, you can see it here, on which the seller or the issuer is the borrower. So borrower can be a government or another organization or a firm, private firm. When they want money, when the government wants to cover the budget deficit, and they issue bonds and they borrow money from the buyers of the bonds. And who are the buyers? Buyers are financial investors, such as individuals, you and me, corporates, organizations. Whenever we say corporates and organization, it includes financial sector as well. And it includes funds, EPF, ETF, and even the governments. So other governments can also buy bonds. So the biggest borrower in the world is the United States government. All the other governments in the world, they have lent to the United States. So the biggest lenders, according to my understanding, to the United States government are Japan, China, and other developed countries, and various governments, including Sri Lankan government, because we keep our foreign assets, large part of our foreign assets, in US bonds. So we all have lent to the US government. You can read the next bullets and try to understand. In a financial market analysis, I'm reading the second bullet. Interest rate is the yield to maturity of a bond. Maturity means the bonds got a maturity period. 30 days, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. So those are called treasury bills according to Sri Lankan standards. And then more than 1 year maturity period, they are called treasury bonds. So in general, maturity period, it has 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, 30 year, 50 year, and infinity as the maturity period. So yield to maturity is the rate at which the present value of a future cash year equals the today's value of a debt. There is a way to calculate present value PV, and the bonds give you future cash flow every 6 months. You get your returns to a bond, and that is the coupon value and equals your cash flow, the today's value of a debt instrument, that is a bond. So the payments at maturity, there are different ways to make that payment. Simple loan, that is a repayment at the date of maturity with interest. Treasury bonds, repayment at the date of maturity with interest. Simple loan. So if you have a 1 year valid bond, you take that bond back to the issuer after the maturity and you get the payment together with the interest. And then we have something called discount bonds. You purchase at the discounted value, discount of the par value, that is the face value of the bond. And you, at the end of the maturity period, you get the full value mentioned on the face of the bond. So treasury bills are traded like that. For example, the value is $100 one, $100 bond, 400 rupee bond, and the interest rate or the discount rate is, the coupon rate is 10%, you are entitled to get 10 rupees, 400 rupee worth. So discount, selling at a discount means you get the your coupon interest at the same time you purchase the bond. So you are buying the bond for 90 rupees. 90 rupees. But the value of the bond is 100 rupees. So, but at the maturity, you get the 100. So those are discounted bonds. Periodic payments, that is fixed payment loan. So you you borrow money, for example, housing loan, business loans, which have a fixed monthly or annual payment. So that is loan installment. You pay back the capital, part of the capital plus the interest. And coupon bonds, that is treasury or corporate bonds, which pay interest periodically. Usually they pay every 6 months. So there are different ways of dealing with bonds in the world. And then for the investors, in fact, it is from looking at it from the investor's point of view, it's part of savings. So instead of keeping your money in a savings account, fixed account, you can keep money in treasury bonds. For some others, it's not savings. They look at it as an investment. So the EPF department of the central bank, because we have about 3 trillion fund, EPF, 3 trillion, that means 3,000 billion. So rather than keeping that 3,000 billion just without any use, the EPF can be invested in treasury bonds. That's what they have done it. So they receive extra income. They earn money so that your EPF grow eventually with the interest income also, because it is from EPF point of view, financial investment. If your point of view, it is a saving. From the government point of view, it's a borrowing. So you look at it from different angles. This is what is actually the bonds are without physical form like this. This is an American bond. And American bond means its face value is, you can see, $1 million. Okay. And it's a treasury bond. You can see it here is a treasury bond. So it's 5-year valid. You can see 5-year period. And it can be issued, has been issued in 1977. And in fact, if you get the total entire period is 555, it can be extended like in 30 years from 77 to 2007. So that's the maturity period. This is called the coupon interest or coupon rate. If you buy this bond by paying 1 million, you get this interest rate, this coupon rate, every year, twice a year actually, that is 6 months. So it has to be divided by 2. So until the maturity period, throughout the maturity period. So that is the work of the bond. However, you can, there is a secondary market. That is where all the issues come from, market intervention. Secondary market means you don't have to keep this throughout your 5-year period. What will happen is after 1 year, you may decide to sell it. You may decide to sell this bond in the secondary market. It's like the stock market. Equity, you keep company stocks for a while and then you look at their movements and then you sell by looking at the price. In the same way, you keep this for some time and then you decide to sell, so that you ask the broker to sell it. And you get your money back. uh, but the new buyer, new holder of this bond will receive this one for the rest of the period. Now, here is the issue, why there is a secondary market. What is the price that you are going to sell this one in the bond market, secondary market? Face value is 1 million. Interest rate is this one. So if you sell it for 1 million, of course, you haven't earned anything for keeping it for 1 year. And if you are selling it too high, nobody wants to buy it. If you are selling it too low, you will lose. So actually, this is not the price to sell it. And the price depends on what? Always in any market, the price depends on demand and supply. Demand and supply. If you are putting this in the secondary market, if the participants in that market believe that too high, this is very good, this bond belongs to the Apple company, they will bid for higher price. Above even 1 million. But if the market participants believe that this is too risky to buy these bonds because the country is collapsing, and so that we don't want to hold their bonds, you can't sell it at higher price. The price will go down. In fact, nowadays, the Sri Lankan ISBs, International Sovereign Bonds, the market price is $1 worth bond. The market price is $30 and $35 and depending on the maturity period. So it has gone that much down. It happens for the Greek bonds also. Greek bonds, and so much decline in prices in the secondary market. But for Greece, there were 3 institutions to support. In fact, they purchased when the bondholders placed their bonds for sale. The large part of the bonds that nobody wants to buy, purchased by European Central Bank and the European Union. Why? Because the bondholders are also from Europe, mostly the banks and other financial institutions scattered in European Union, and large part of that, I think, German banks. So Germany, France, those countries have to support Greece to stand, because if Greece collapses, Greece will collapse with other countries also. So at least for their own safety, they have to protect Greece. I wrote a write-up somewhere in 2015. When Sri Lanka collapsed, there won't be anybody to save us. I wrote about Greece actually, and looking at Sri Lanka also, similar way that Sri Lanka is also going forward. That is true because Greece has had at that time three institutions to protect Greece: European Union, ECB, European Central Bank, and IMF, three institutions. So European Union and European Central Bank, they actually purchase the junk bonds. We call them junk bonds when people don't want to buy them. Nowadays, Sri Lankan bonds are junk bonds, not even junk because we have declared temporary default so that even below junk, so nobody wants to buy them. But anyway, demand and supply determine the price that you want to sell. If it is high demand, you can buy it at higher price. If it is lower demand, this price goes down. So what is left out of that price to the maturity? That is the interest rate. Not this one. This is not the interest rate. Okay. This is the coupon rate. But coupon rate is fixed. It doesn't change. But interest rate is not fixed because it is the difference between the market price and what you get at maturity. So that's what we call yield to maturity. Holding a bond. So this is a bond and well, this is Sri Lankan bond. You can see it. In fact, nowadays you don't have these scrip bonds. We have scriptless bond. And amount of money, they will write it when you purchase it here. And maturity period will be mentioned here. So other information, so all these things are mentioned here, and you can keep this bond with you instead of keeping money. So this was at that time what the central bank issued. This is a treasury bill. Treasury bill. And what's the difference between a bill and a bond? This is less than 1 year value, short-term debt instrument. Treasury bonds, long-term debt instrument. So I mentioned that interest rate vary depending on the price of bonds in the market. That means demand and supply. I'm going to take a simple example. Some of you are in the financial market. You might know how it works. But some of others who are not in the financial market work in there so that they should know how it works. We take a simple example, a hold of a 1 year bond. So the validity period, maturity period, 1 year. Face value 100 rupees. Okay, face value 100 rupees. And the coupon rate 10%. So after 1 year, how much you get? 110. For that invest because it's a valid only 1 year. So purchase it at the primary auction. Primary auction means the bulk purchases. So not everybody is participating in the primary auction. Only the primary dealers like perpetual treasuries. So they buy bonds at the primary auction. And this one is bought, I mentioned here, at a discount. Par value 90 rupees because the coupon rate is 10. And the primary dealer decides to sell it. Of course, they always do that. They don't buy bonds and bills to keep it in as their holding. They have to sell it. That's how they make money. So when they sell it, EPF can buy it or anybody else can buy it. Banks can buy it, firms can buy it, individuals can buy it, anybody can buy it, you and me included. So decided to sell it in the secondary market. So this is the primary market and this is the secondary market, after which they operate. So now the market forces affect how this bond works. For example, suppose that it was sold at the price 95 rupees. What was the par value or the face value of the bond? 100 rupees. Now, what is the market value? 95 rupees. In fact, you bought it for 90. Okay. 90. So the primary dealer has 5 rupees from each bond, 5 rupees profit. So what does the buyer get then? The buyer gets the difference between this price and the par value, that is the value that it will get from the issuer at the maturity. So which means now 100 is the par value, the face value, and you bought it for 95 rupees. So here is a 5 rupee profit, and as a percentage of your price. So it will worth, what you get is 5.26%. Suppose that the demand for the bond is high. That means you can sell it at higher price, like 95, 96 rupees, higher than the previous case, because of high demand. Then what you get, the holder of the bond gets 100 minus 96 over 96, that is 4.7. Earlier, 5.26, now 4.7. If the demand is not so good, like the Sri Lankan bonds at the moment, then actually you can sell it at lower price, low demand. So what the buyer gets is 100 minus 94 over 100, which is 6.36. This is the yield to maturity for the interest rate. You see the price and what is the price? Price is this one, 95, 96, 94, that is price. And the interest rate is 5.26%, 4.17 and 6.38. When you look at all these rates, you will understand the price and the interest rate, these two things move in opposite direction. You got the point? So don't forget that in the bond market, the price and the interest rate move in opposite direction, which is important for our discussion. The price and the interest rate is not the rate that is mentioned on the face of the bond. That is called coupon rate. But the market determined interest rate is this one, yield to maturity, in other words. So let's move on. This is yes. Yeah, after he bought it, it is his own. He is the holder of the bond, and he can either sell it again to somebody else, or he can keep it until the maturity and return to the issuer and get his money back. Okay. Yeah, aggregate benefit is if it is a longer term bond, interest rates, the coupon rate will be paid couple of times every 6 months. So the holder of the bond get that coupon rate from the issuer. The owner, the holder of the bond, not the original buyer, because he doesn't have the bond anymore. He has sold it to somebody else. And the buyer, the holder of the bond, gets that uh, periodic payments every 6 months usually, and also at the end of the maturity period, the total full amount of money. So the difference is actually the market price and the interest. So these two are the more important things in the secondary market. Okay, any other question? No questions, right? So this is a table. I got it from one of the textbooks which I have given to you probably, or not, if different books, and probably I have copied it from the book called Miskin, Mishkin, Mishkin's financial market analysis book, textbook. Okay, so this is interest rate or the yield to maturity, and you can see that the second column gives that interest rate. So the first column gives the price of the bond. So initially, yield to maturity on a 10% coupon rate. This is 10%, the coupon rate mentioned on the face of the book. And the bond is maturing in 10 years. And the face value of the bond is $1,000. So $1,000 bond is now in the market, that is the secondary market. So if the market price is $1,000, which means it equals the face value, then interest rate is also equal the coupon value, coupon rate. But if the price goes up, for example, 1,100, 1,200, you can see yield to maturity is going down, which is the interest rate. That's why the interest rates are actually going up and down in the market. Otherwise, it shouldn't go, right? Because interest rate is given on the coupon rate. So you need to make that difference between these two, coupon rate and the interest rate. If the price of the bond goes down below the face value, like 900, then actually yield to maturity is higher. That's how it works. When the price of bond rises, interest rate falls below the coupon rate. Below the coupon rate. Okay, that's what we saw here. When the price of bond falls, that is here, interest rate rises above the coupon rate. Right. I think In another course module, you might be discussing about this subject in detail so that we don't need that much analysis. And because we are in the macroeconomic course module, so that basic knowledge is sufficient for the moment, for our analysis. So what determines the interest rate? When we take these two markets, money market and the bond market, the interest rate is determined by the interaction between money market and the bond market. So there is an interrelationship between these two markets. So what are the two markets? Bond market and money market. Demand for bonds and demand for money are inversely related. That's why the interaction between the two markets are important. For example, higher interest rate. I'm reading the first. Higher interest rate. That means lower the price of bonds. If it is the case, it leads to higher demand for bonds. Higher demand for bonds and lower demand for money. So public doesn't want to keep more money because at this kind of situation, large part of money flow into the bond market because bond market is more attractive. Bond market is more attractive. The banks will keep their money in the bond market. They don't want to lend to the private borrowers. They like to keep it in the bonds. Demand for bonds get higher. At the lower interest rate, that means higher price of bonds. That leads to lower demand for bonds, and the financial investors don't want to take that. They are discouraged buying bonds because the prices are high and the interest rates are low. That means at that point there is higher demand for money. So we know that now already bonds and money both are assets in which we can store our value. Now, what determines the demand for assets? There is a separate theory called theory of asset demand, and under which, as we have already seen, there is demand for bonds, demand for money. The two are determined by these two conditions. So now we mentioned demand for money and supply of money a couple of times. So we need to understand these two terms a little more. What is demand for? What is supply of money? Money demand we define in economics as willingness to hold money for transaction, three purposes: transaction purpose, precautionary purpose, and speculative purpose. As part of public, companies, banks, non-bank financial institutions, various funds, firms, organizations, and people, we all have a willingness to keep money. Why do we need money? Because in Keynesian view, this is Keynesian, a transaction purpose. We need money for transaction purpose. We need money for precautionary purpose. Companies need money for precautionary purpose. Banks need money for precautionary purpose, apart from transaction. Also, we need money for speculative purpose. That is to make more money by looking the opportunity. But when we keep money, there is an opportunity cost, which is the interest rate, that we would have earned otherwise. And that opportunity cost, which is the interest rate, it is foregone. We have given it up by not holding bonds. In this case, we don't hold bonds, we hold money. By holding money instead of holding bonds, we have given up the interest income that we would have otherwise earned. Okay? Therefore, money demand for money, that is this one, and the interest rate, these two are inversely related. These two are inversely related. Now, what is speculative purpose? Speculative purpose is actually to be cautious, be alert on what is happening in the bond market. You keep money because you think that bond market is going to give you higher returns in the future. So you keep money to invest there in the future. The bond market gives you money, lower returns in the future. So that in that case, you don't need to keep money now in your hand. You have to put all money in the bond market, because unless you keep it in your pocket, your handbag, in the future, you will lose that opportunity to make more money. So that's speculative purpose. You look at the bond market. You assume what is going to happen in the future. Nowadays, when we look at the Sri Lankan financial markets and interest rate, I think many people believe that interest rates are likely to go down in the future because inflation is falling and the central bank has been taking policy measures to lower the interest rate. Bond market may be improved after the successful negotiations, restructuring, so that those who are keeping an eye on the bond market, they have kind of a speculation even now, all the time. So money demand means keeping money in liquid form, in your bank deposit or in your pocket or wherever, in money form. Willingness to hold money, that is the money demand. And why is the willingness to hold money among the public? Because of these three purposes in Keynesian view. Now, what is money supply then? Money supply is actually not as complicated as like that. It is the stock variable. We have mentioned what are the stock variables and flow variable. So this is a stock variable, money supply, not like money demand. It's a stock variable independent of changes in interest rate. So interest rate doesn't affect that. Why is that? Interest rate doesn't affect it because it is determined by the central bank, not influenced by the central bank. There may be other parties who influence money supply. We will look at them later. maybe not in this discussion, maybe some other discussion, but central bank has the sole authority, legitimate power to decide the stock of money in the economy. So accordingly, central bank decides using various tools how to maintain that stock, that is money supply. Willingness to hold money, that is demand. Let me get all these things, then it is easy. Okay, this is money demand. And it is actually demand for, we mentioned this ratio now a couple of minutes ago. We are not looking at the nominal money. We are looking at the real money stock in the economy. And that money demand depends on two variables. Two variables are interest rate and income level. Remember, we mentioned three purposes of money demand: transaction purpose, precautionary purpose, speculative purpose. So the transaction purpose and precautionary purpose, that means, take for example, a person. When you start your day in the morning and you need some money in your pocket, that is your money demand. And you have some money in your wallet. For transaction purpose, you need to pay for your transport, you need to pay for your meals and tea and all these things. That is your transaction purpose, the amount of money that you. In addition, you need money for your precautionary purpose. Suddenly, there may be unforeseen events affecting that you need to make decision. You need to take a tuk-tuk to come back home. So you need some more money for that. So that is precautionary. So the entire economy, when we are talking about in macroeconomics, has that quality, that problem. The economy, part of the money stock is for transaction purpose and precautionary purpose, as well as speculative purpose. Those who are expecting to put their money in the bond market, they have speculative purpose. So the first two, that is transaction and precautionary demand, depends on the level of income. So depending on the level of income, you hold that amount of money. So that means actually, for example, if you are living in Colombo, you need more money for your transaction and precautionary purpose. You have a lot of things to spend on. Why there are a lot of things? Because a lot of economic activities taking place in Colombo. And because there are a lot of economic activities, the income levels are higher in Colombo. But if you live in where? Nandikada, you don't have that many things to spend on. So you don't need that much money to spend a day there in Nandikada, even if you face unforeseen situations there. Of course, your money will have no use because it is not an economy where a lot of economic activities taking place, so that the income levels are also low. If you live in Tokyo, you need more money. So this income level is important for money demand in an economy. Now, then why are interest rate? It is the determinant of money demand for speculative. So that's how the Keynesian understanding of the money demand is presented. We are looking at real value of the money stock, that is real balance, and the demand for real balance depend on interest rate, that is speculative purpose, and income level, that is transaction and precautionary purpose. So our linear equation can be written down like this: AY. Why not? Why not is a given income level. Okay, given income level at a given level, $80 billion economy. Until it goes to 100 billion, this is like this. It's the intercept of the equation. Now, interest rate is DR. So money demand is an inverse function of the interest rate according to this interpretation. So what is A and B? A and B are given here. Responsiveness of money demand to changes in income, that is A. When the income level goes up from 80 billion to 100 billion, how does it affect money demand in the economy? What is B? Responsiveness of money demand to changes in interest rate. So when the interest rate goes down, because central bank is pushing it down, money demand should respond. What is that response? Of course, it is a negative, inverse response, because money demand is negatively related to interest rate and positively related to income level. Money supply, that is the supply of real money balances available in an economy at a given point of time, and that is determined by the central bank. Central bank using all these monetary policy instruments. So again, we are looking at this one. We are looking at actually a stock of money. So it's not an equation, because it's not sensitive to interest rate change. Stock of money. And that stock has various components, and those components are given. If you want to look at all those components, you need to go to the section of the central bank called monetary aggregate. Monetary aggregates. Because the stock of money it's not that the stock, you can't say that this is the stock. It depends on the definition. There are various definitions for the stock of money. And we call them M0, M1, M2, M3, M4, and then some subcategories under these M. These are the monetary aggregates. So we are not going into detail in those areas. But for the moment, we define for our purpose, money stock is C plus D. What is C? Amount of cash in circulation. This is actually M1 Monday. M1. M1. Definition is this. What is D? That is the amount of demand deposits held by bank. That is current accounts. Current account deposit. So when it goes to M2, you have to add other accounts, savings account, deposits, and so on. So we take the simple definition of narrow money supply. It is called narrow money supply because our purpose here is different. We are not going to remember all these monetary aggregates. We are trying to understand how the money market works, how the interest rate is determined. Now there is an issue that we need to understand. Some of you need to know this. I know that some of you are already learned about it. This C is there is no issue, right? And everybody knows, and the bank, central bank knows how much currency currency is in circulation. And currency cannot be multiplied. Of course, there are people who multiply currency as well. But we are talking about a clean economic model where there are no hooks and rules. So here we got T, but problem with T is it is the amount of current account deposits held by banks, commercial banks. The issue is actually this commercial banking system can multiply demand deposits. So that poses a complicated issue for us as well as for the central bank to deal with. What is deposit multiplication? So I'm giving here simple example for us to understand what is multiplication. We start with the simplifying two assumptions. Assumption one is banks maintain zero assets and liabilities at the initially. That means the banks have not yet started their operations. Just now, this morning, they were open and they are now ready to start their banking business. So zero balance sheet. The second one, there is no excess liquidity in the banking system. That means banks, every cent that they receive, they are ready to lend to somebody else. They don't want to keep anything unnecessarily. That means there is no excess liquidity. So instead of explaining this table, let me explain some numbers to you. Easier. Here are the numbers. So maintaining those two assumptions, we start with the first deposit. In the banking system, first somebody comes with the first deposit, 100 rupees, so 100 million rupees. And then the central bank has imposed SRR, statutory reserve ratio. So the reserves have to be separated from this 100 million. That means if the reserve ratio is alpha and the initial deposit is K, so alpha times K is the amount of reserves. So suppose that the reserve ratio is 20%. 20% of 100 million is 20 million. So the banks have to separate 20 million and put it in their account maintained at the central bank. You don't keep more because we have that assumption, no excess liquidity. So how much is left? Everything is available for loan. And what is left is 1 minus alpha times A. That means 0.8 into 100, which is 80 million is with the bank for loans. So the deposit is now divided between reserves and the loan. So somebody else come, the second customer, to the bank and get that loan. 1 person or 2 person or 10 persons. They come and borrow money from the bank. What do? How much they borrow? They borrow the entire amount according to our assumption. And that borrowing comes to the bank, may not be the same bank, but the banking system as a second deposit. Second deposit. How do we say that it comes back to the bank? Without which, where does it land? Suppose that somebody got 10 million to pay for the building materials. So the money goes to the building materials. So the check goes to the building materials, and the building material company put that check in their account. So instead of 10 million, another got 5 million. And suppose that person got 5 million in cash. He's going to spend it for his drinking and gambling and purchases and food and transportation and vacation, all these things. And so that he spend it several places. And what do those places do with that money that they collect? They put that in their accounts. So that means it also come back to the bank. So this means that this loan that the bank issued, that is 80 million. If we forget the time duration between issuing the loan and coming back as the deposit, okay, there is a time gap, of course we know. But obviously all that money come back to the bank. So what do the bank do then after that? They have to separate their reserves out of that 80 million, and balance will be available for loan. And that loan will also come back to the banks as another deposit, set of deposits. So the process continues. At the end stage of this process, the end deposit comes to the bank. And by looking at these changes, you can understand what is the amount of deposit coming to the bank at the nth stage. That is 1 minus alpha to the power n minus k. How do we know that n minus k? Because we look at this ratio. This is 1, this is 2, and then this has to be n minus k. So 1 minus alpha to the power n minus 1 times k, that is the n deposit. And the banks will separate reserves, and the balance is available for loan, that is 1 minus alpha to the power n into k. So the infinite stage is here, that is the end of the process. And when you get when you get the total amount of deposits of the entire process, because earlier it was 100 million, that was the first deposit. So the total amount of deposits that the banking system has created equals 500 million. The total amount of reserves that the banking system has created, that is summation R, is 100 million. Okay, that actually equal the initial deposit. And the total amount of loans that the bank has issued will be 100 million. So the summation of these two will be all the deposits. I hope you got the point of deposit multiplication. So we have many banks, we have many depositors, we have many loans, millions. So, but this is the process that would happen. So that's why ultimately what we want to say is that this D is complicated. You saw that D as part of money supply. As part of money supply. So I think you had the question probably, how do you aggregate all these deposits and all these reserves and all these loans? So this is the way to aggregate it, and we are not going to do that here. But you can ask, if you don't know mathematics, you can ask somebody who knows mathematics. So they will tell you, and after that simplification, you will get total deposit equals K times 1 over alpha. K is initial deposit 100, alpha is 20%. So 100 times 1 over 20% is 500. That's how we got 500. So here we have some equation. Total deposit equals total reserves plus loans. We know that. Total reserves equal initial deposit. We know that. We have seen it. Total deposit is 1 over alpha into K, and 1 over alpha is higher than 1 because alpha is a percentage. Deposit multiplier. So we have a term for this 1 over alpha. It is called deposit multiplier. There is also something called money multiplier. You will learn it in that subject area. So loans are also, they have multipliers. For example, loan multiplier is this one, 1 over alpha minus 1. So those kind of loan multiplier is 1 over alpha minus 1, as I said. So these are some of the things that we need to understand. Monetary aggregates, here what I told you, different measures of the stock of money. So reserve money stock is called C plus R. What is R? Reserves. What is C? Cash in circulation. So reserve money, you must have heard the term reserve money. Oh, base money, that is M0. And then narrow money stock, that is the one we use here. C plus D, D is current account deposits. And then there are several broader money stocks. This is M2. M2 is M1 plus savings and fixed deposit. And then we have M3. It is M2 plus quasi money of commercial bank, near money, almost money. And M4 is M3 plus quasi money of non-bank institutions. So liquidity level of money, that is the important idea. Liquidity level of money declines when you go to broader money stocks. Sri Lankan monetary aggregates, different countries define it according to their needs. So we have all these things: M0, reserve money, base money, high powered money; M1, narrow money; M2, broad money; and M2B, consolidated broad money. That's how we define. You can get these figures from the central bank report. And these are the definitions for all these monetary aggregates. So here we go with monetary aggregates in Sri Lanka. I'm taking 2017 and 18 year figures. Currency outstanding, it has two components: held by public, currency with commercial bank. So currency held by public, this table gives you the actual figures. For all, you can see reserve money, 1 plus 2 plus 3, and then narrow money supply, that is M1, and then broad money supply, M2, and then consolidated money supply, M2B. And you have money multiplier. This is actually similar to deposit multiplier, but not the same. Money multiplier is calculated taking, I think it has taken according to as I see here, M2B, that is this one, divided by the amount of reserve money, that is this one. So you got 6.71. That means every rupee that is in reserve money stock will multiply into 6 rupees and 71 cents. And then velocity is another indicator. Velocity is how many times that each rupee get circulated. If that is declining, so here it has declined, that means we have more money than the real output. So these are some of the definitions from our economy. So I think that is where I'm going to stop for today. And after that, we have a somewhat different topic. So if you have any questions, please go ahead now. It seems that there are no questions. That is also good.
Sir, what is meant by high-powered money?
High-powered money is M0. You see, high-powered money. There is a different name for the same thing, reserve money. Sometimes the monetary policies are directed at controlling M0, reserve money. So the target variable is to control reserve monies. Now, target variable is the inflation. So it depends on what kind of monetary policies that the central bank adopts. Okay, so nice talking to you today. So wish you all the best, and we will meet again next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.